The guidelines might also include a description of confidentiality. If the group will be reviewing documents that need to remain confidential or might undergo substantial modification before being made public, rules might require to govern this like confidentiality. And many experienced poly participation practitioners assume that anything turned into advisory groups, regardless of a request of a confidentiality, it is a public document. And if something is a public document, it can be actually like subpoena, or it might be subject to the Government Records Access Management Act, which is like GRAMA requests. And this is also true not only for government organizations, but for nonprofits and for businesses as well. So that it's important to note that if something comes up, like a lawsuit, there might be people checking your private email to see if you have corresponded with other members of the advisory group if again something comes into question. Specific mechanisms might need to be set up to ensure the regular communication with the advisory members and the constituencies that are being represented by these like group members. Remember that we already spoke about how most of these like advisory groups might have someone that represents a particular district. So this means that the public um, can can talk to someone in the advisory group, and there might be some kind of mechanisms to do that. Probably the maintaining the meeting as public is the best way of doing that, and making sure that members of the public can attend. And as I said, in the city, in Salt Lake City, all of the meetings are public, but not all organizations have meetings that are public. But this is like the primary way that you might hear from your constituents, even though you're not elected, right? You're appointed to that position. This means that if you are going to invite the public to these meetings, you should make a public notice. We have spoken before in previous lectures. You can post the notice that the meetings are coming up in the city's website, like Salt Lake City does it for these meetings. You can also put it in the Utah Public Notice website that you have checked out also in um, previous examples of this class. And you can actually like publish it in other methods, being listservs that you have, or maybe in the local media, newspaper. Maybe people that are interested sign up for your newsletter. If it's desirable actually to keep the advisory group process open and visible to the public, so that when the group finally develops a recommendation, it is credible to the public. And this is very important, especially for planning projects in where you are developing, not developing, but coming up with alternatives or recommendations for very large portions of the city, like in the example that we talked about, the Concord Naval Weapon Station. So you want to have these meetings public and for a long period of time, until they actually made a decision on the preferred alternative that they would like to move forward to decision makers, which are the city council, mayor, um, and so on. And so you want to have these meetings that are public, open to the public, but also announce any particular decisions that are made, even put them in the newspaper or write newsletters and keep the people that are interested informed throughout the whole process. So then at the end, the preferred alternative is not a surprise to someone, and people might contest that. The idea is that people know that this is like coming, and they're part of the process early on, so they can give their input at that stage when the board is actually trying to come up with ideas and alternatives, so they actually are able to shape the preferred alternative. If at the end they come and say we don't like the preferred alternative, well, that's a problem, because people might not have been involved before. That's why you want to give people plenty of opportunity to get engaged in this like process, and make this process as transparent as possible by having many public meetings, and other ways of people providing feedback. And so it's not only that you make the meetings open, but also you have the agendas available for them to check them out before you meet. Any reports or documentation that they might need to read, you should make that available, and put them in the website. You should have the recordings in case like people missed a meeting, and all of this should be posted publicly, so people can access it whenever they want and give comments if they want by sending emails or making a phone call. Unfortunately, there's like people that in advisory committees or groups, they might talk to the media because they didn't like something, or maybe the group was like going another direction, or maybe they feel that the advisory group wasn't really representative of the community. So when this happens and it's not something like approved by the agency, it can become very problematic, because it's like showing the view of a particular advisory group member, but it might not necessarily show the view of that board or the agency. So the media, as we have talked about before, it might tend to give like only one side of the story, if instead of like the two sides of the story in a more balanced way. So this is why there's like some advisory boards that um, or say that only the chair is able to actually talk to the media, or only after like going through like a process and talking to the agency they might go to the media. So they do it as a concerted body, as opposed to having an individual going on their own and talking to the media. That is like something that is highly discouraged by these different advisory groups. Only like in very special circumstances you might actually like close the have a closed meeting. That is like, again, the public is not allowed to be in this meeting. And there's like only a few circumstances that this would be the case. For example, there's an individual that is like acting up, or they're like not being very professional, they're being disrespectful, maybe they are demonstrating signs of dementia, or maybe some health conditions that are of concern, to see if someone can continue or not in this position. So this is why maybe the person that is directing the board, the chair, or someone in the staff might say, we need to have a private conversation, and the public is not allowed in this part of the meeting. The way that it usually happens is in a regular public meeting, they make the decision of like closing the meeting. So that will be probably at the end of the meeting. They will say, and now we will have like a closed session and people vote on that. And then after that, they ask the public to leave. And this is when they have their decision. and they might say very few things to the public about why they're having this decision to keep, for example, if there's someone that is like ill and cannot continue, or again is like not acting respectfully, that would not be something that it will be said right at that meeting, but there will be something that is more tactful and respectful, that is said in a way that again is not problematic and doesn't put someone on the spot about why the board might be meeting with a closed door. There might be other reasons. For example, the city might be thinking about doing a purchase, an exchange, or lease a property, but they don't want to. In a negotiation process, it's not a good idea to just like talk about who and like how much and anything that can damage a transaction. The same thing with like when the board might be made a decision that maybe they're now liable for, and they want to know how to proceed. So that would be like that will trigger having a closed door meeting to talk about that. Or also the city could be like trying to sell a property, but they don't want to say, again, they don't have the details yet of like how much, or maybe they want to do something specific, know what are the possible terms and all that. And that's not something that is to involve the public, again, because it becomes also part of the public record and it can damage a transaction that needs to be done. And other reasons might be deployment of security devices, criminal misconduct investigations, and advice of legal counsel.